Let me first explain the process adopted by the ICICI Bank to sanction the loan to the Videocon Group. In 2012, a consortium of over 20 banks and financial institutions sanctioned facilities to the Videocon Group, that is Videocon Industries Limited, and 12 of its subsidiaries, associates as co-obligors for a debt consolidation program and for the group's oil and gas capital expenditure program aggregating to approximately 40,000 crores. ICICI Bank's current exposure to the Videocon Group is part of this syndicated consortium arrangement. ICICI Bank was not the lead bank for this consortium, and the bank only sanctioned its share of the facilities aggregating to approximately 3,250 crores, which were less than 10% of the total consortium facility in April 2012. After the preparation of the information memorandum and the initial due diligence for the financing program by the lead arrangers, and after the sanction of the facilities by the lead bank, the credit committee of the ICICI Bank in 2012 sanctioned its share of facilities in the syndicated arrangements to the Videocon Group. This committee was chaired by the then chairman of the ICICI Bank, and it included independent and working directors of the bank. It is important to note that Mrs. Chanda Kochhar was not the chairperson of this committee. The terms and conditions offered for these loans are similar to those offered by other banks in the consortium, ruling out the possibility of any special benefit to the borrower by the ICICI Bank. I repeat, the terms and conditions offered for these loans by ICICI Bank are similar to those offered by other banks of the consortium, who account for 90% of the loan amount. We are only under 10%, ruling out the possibility of any special benefit to the borrower by ICICI Bank. It is important to note here that all banks, including ICICI Bank, disbursed the rupee term loan into a common escrow pool account being maintained for this purpose by the lead bank. So it was not even the disbursement was made directly by the bank to the Videocon Group. It went into a escrow pool account, and from where it was disbursed. ICICI Bank's share of the banking sector's exposure to the Videocon Group was less than 10%, while around 90% of the loans were sanctioned by other banks and financial institutions on same terms. I would further like to add that ICICI Bank's share of exposure has reduced in percentage terms and is now lesser than what it was a few years ago. On the basis of the above information, the board concluded that there is no question or scope of any favoritism, nepotism, or quid pro quo on the part of its managing director. Given this architecture of sanctioning all loans by the credit committee comprising of independent directors, no individual employee, howsoever may be his or her position, has the ability to influence the decision on credit given by the bank. I would also like to expressly clarify that none of the investors of New Power Renewables are borrowers of ICICI Bank. We have also been receiving some questions from various quarters in this regard, and let me proactively address them now. Mrs. Kochhar was a part of the credit committee which sanctioned these loan facilities to the Videocon Group. The board does not see as a conflict of interest in any manner, since Videocon Group is not an investor in New Power Renewables. Hence, there was no need to recluse herself from this committee. As mentioned earlier, this committee had many independent directors and the committee was not chaired by her. Moreover, it was a part of a consortium arrangement where terms and conditions had already been agreed upon by the consortium. The question has been asked as to, did she make the necessary disclosures to the company? I would like to state that she has been making all her disclosures in accordance with the regulatory guidelines under the Companies Act and the Banking Act. There have also been questions raised as to whether regulators reached out to us for queries. I would like to clearly state that we have satisfactorily replied to the questions of all the regulators, which is an ongoing process between a regulated entity like a bank and the regulators and other government departments. However, this is a privileged information between the regulators and the bank, and it would be totally inappropriate for me to go public with them. That's the prerogative of the regulators to decide on the issue. The company, therefore, is not in a position to share any specific details about any questions or queries by the regulators. I hope with all this, I have been able to answer all your queries. I would strongly urge all of you not to spread rumors around this issue or this topic which mars the reputation of the bank or its MD and CEO.